this session, you can watch last week, and it'll just kind of play through one at a time. So if you're interested in doing that, what you may find is that there's different tips every week, different takeaways that you learn every week. There's going to be some common themes, of course, but you're going to find some different things that will occur in there as well. So as soon as that live stream is up, okay, let me see here. I just need to mute it because it's going to have me talking. Okay, it's muted in the background there. And Julia will grab that link for the YouTube video as well as the playlist, and she will drop it into the live stream. I'm going to stop my screen share, pull all of your lovely faces up on screen so I can see all of you. And I want to say good morning and welcome. Happy Friday. Here in Michigan, it's the public schools are now going on to spring break. So today is actually the start of their spring break, and they're off all next week. So it feels a little bit different for me. The kids are spending the night at their friend's house on a Thursday, which is a little bit of a unique situation, but we're moving into a bit of a holiday season here. So I know our attendance might be a little bit lighter today. And I want to remind you, we do this every Friday, regardless if it's a holiday week or not. We still have people, some people don't celebrate the holidays, and we still have people on the call. And there may be weeks when I'm not on, but I do have a crew, if you will. I like to call them my all-stars that help with these calls every week. And sometimes they help to run the call in my absence. So I'm just going to look through and say welcome and good morning to all of you real quick. As I'm doing so, I'm going to identify the all-stars. But if the all-stars could help me by raising your hand, that would be great. By going into the reactions button, clicking on raise hand, that will help me so that I don't miss you. Because sometimes I accidentally skip you, not on purpose because you're all very special, but because I'm running so fast through these. All right. And Joey, I'm going to make you a co-host. You're part of my all-star lineup. Sue, good morning. I'm going to make you a co-host, part of my all-star lineup. Mindy, it's nice to see you. I'm going to make you a all-star co-host on here. Okay, let's see who else. I want to say good morning and welcome to all of you, to Al, Angela, Brett, Brian, Christopher, Crystal, Cyril, Dave, David, Dean, Debbie, Julia, my intern. I'm going to make her a co-host right now. And by the way, for those folks that are co-hosts, if you ever see anything kind of interesting happening that shouldn't be happening on the Zoom, i.e. somebody needs to be kicked off of the Zoom or muted or things like that, like feel free to jump in. You're part of the, what did Christopher used to call us? Not the parental guidance, we're the adults in charge, so to speak. So you're helping with the adults in charge part of the meeting. Okay, so I said Dean, Debbie, Janine, Jeff, Joan, Catherine, Katie, Laura, Lisa, Mary Beth, Mary, Randy, Rob, Scott, Sherry, nice to see you again, Stuart, Susan, VF, Wendy, and Kevin. I think that's it. It might have shifted a little bit. So if I missed your name, I do apologize. I'm going to just scroll back up to the top of the list and see who I have designated as co-host. So I've got, these are the folks that are going to be helping me out. And I'm going to ask each of these individuals to introduce themselves now, going in this order. So we're going to go Joey, Mindy, Sue, and who else? Is that it? Joey, Mindy, and Sue? Did I miss anyone? I think that's it. Joey, Mindy, and Sue, and then back to me, unless I've missed someone. So go ahead, Joey.
Thank you, Brenda. Good morning, all. Glad you could be here. Wish it was on better terms, but you're here nonetheless, so we appreciate that you're here. I'm from New York, born and bred, and I will sit in the back watching and listening. I've been in sales for 30 plus years. I've written a book. I'm writing a second one having to do with selling yourself and the job search. And so I am positive minded and try to be positive minded as much as possible. If I hear you going down a rat hole, I will step in and smack you across the face, give you a shove in the tush, and bring you back up to speed. Glad you're here. Mindy, up to you now.
Thanks, Joey. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this fabulous location. We are all here on a beautiful Friday morning to support each other, to mentor each other, to empower each other to do more, to do better, to do greater. We all are here to help you, whatever you need. We're here to answer your questions. I'm honored to be part of this group. I also run a group called the Accelerators Job Seeker Group, which you are welcome to join. It is a private LinkedIn group, but we host monthly free Zoom calls. This month, we're inviting in Virginia Franco, who's a resume expert, and she has offered to ask her anything. She will answer any questions, and that's coming up this coming Tuesday. April 4th. I will put the link in the chat as soon as I get done, and hope to see you all there. We're at about, I want to say 80 participants so far, so I have room for about 20 more. My Zoom will only hold 100. So if you're interested, sign up today and we'll see you on Tuesday. Thanks again. And again, we're here for your support.
Thanks. I love coming to this meeting. In fact, when I travel, I hate to miss it. That's how important it is to me as one of the all-stars able to help you all out. I run a global mentoring practice. I'm the mentor with pom-poms. I celebrate our small wins. So watch for me shaking the pom-poms if you've had a win. And I'm actually, I think, Brenda's still not on camera. So I'm going to remind you all, if you're new, put in all capital letters new in the chat box. If you have a question or a success, we need these in all capitals. Put question in and follow with the question, success in and follow with the question, so that we can help Brenda track these along with, I think it's Julia who's on today. And Brenda, you're back again. So
I am. It's always nice when we have more of the All-Star. I always love having a lot of All-Stars helping me out in the background, but I'm going to lean in and tell you guys, part of what I do, I have another meeting before this, and then I like go and make breakfast, and then I eat breakfast while you guys are doing your introduction. So I don't know if you saw me, I was like shoveling eggs in my mouth. Like I was like, oh, we've only got 3 people. I got to go quickly because I need my protein in the morning. I'm a multitasker, but this is all good. I love that we have folks that are helping out on the phone call, and I want to welcome you. And Joey said you might not want to be here, and I get that. You may not want to be here because the fact of the matter is, if you're on here, that means you're not back to work yet, right? And I get it. I've been there before. It's a roller coaster of emotions you're going through. Some days it's great not to be back to work because you don't have to worry about the commute during really bad weather, right? Or you don't have to go into that really tense meeting with people that you didn't really enjoy working with anyways. And other days is like, you miss being part of a team, don't you? I mean, I felt that when I was first in career transition. Is like, one day I was friends with all of these friends. I was friends with these people were my family practically, right? We were spending so much time together, and we were helping each other, and we were supporting each other. And then I got walked into that conference room for that very awkward, walk of shame or whatever it is, right? And being told that my position was being eliminated. And then, having to go clean up my desk while I'm crying. And it's a very awkward situation. And then, leadership has a thing they tell the team, so-and-so is no longer with the company and whatnot. And sometimes it's a part of a more of a mass restructuring. So you're not the only one going through the process. There's others that are going through the process. But at any rate, one day you are part of the team. The next day you're not. And it's a little awkward. Like, where does the team go? Where does the friendship go? Right. And I found it interesting at the time. There were some people that reached out to me like immediately, even as I was in the parking lot before I left. Are you okay? I saw you. And in the days to follow, they would reach out. Hey, I'm thinking of you. Let me know if I can help. You've been awesome to work with, etc. And some people never reached out to me, like never. And eventually I bumped into them in person. And maybe this happened to you too. When you bump into them in person, they do let me just trying to change my view a little bit on here. Spotlight for everyone. Okay. They do the awkward head tilt. How you doing? Are you doing okay? Are you all right? You get that awkward head tilt. And, at the time that I was getting the awkward head tilts from the people, I was already on the path to building my business at Meller Marketing. And I was doing pretty awesome. Actually, I was rocking at that point. I was happy. I was bringing in income. I had found a new path for myself. And I wasn't dealing with all of the stress of being in corporate America. And don't get me wrong, I loved being in corporate America, but I found something I loved even more, right? And so when they were like, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? I was like, yeah, I'm actually doing great. I'm able to be home with my daughter when she gets off the bus stop. I can make dinner at night now. Actually able to get out and work out more often. Things are going really great. How about you? How are you doing? Are things okay at work? And I would do the head tilt back to them, right? So things come full circle, but we are here for you so that you have a team that you can be a part of. And I want you to look around the room. We've got about 40 other people on the call right now. And this can be your team while you are in between successes and in career transition. If you have not already done so, I want to invite you to go into the chat right now and introduce yourself. And I just put a little summary of what we're looking for in your introduction. You want to tell us your targeted job title. You want to tell us your targeted geographic area, where in the world you are and where you're looking for work. And then also put in your LinkedIn URL, including the HTTPS so that it's blue and clickable. And that way we can visit your profile while we're on the call, invite you to connect. And by the way, when you invite fellow job seekers to connect, please do mention that you were both on the Friday call here today. And I highly encourage you to connect with other job seekers. You may be very close to 500 connections. I'm thinking of someone who's on the call right now, and I'm not going to name names, but you may be very close to 500 connections, and you can send out, I think, 27 more with the people on the phone call, and you can get over 500, right? The other reason I would encourage you to connect with fellow job seekers is you can help each other. You never know when someone on this call is going to hear about an opportunity and they can refer that opportunity to you. And that's part of what I ask of you. When you join this team, your job is to help and support other people, as well as getting help and support for your own path to finding your next job. So that's kind of a part of it. It's the social media karma element. We want to pay it forward, help others. So as you're seeing fellow job seekers on LinkedIn posting about their opportunities, I want you to get in there, add a comment. That helps to broadcast that post to more people. So you're helping just to create visibility by doing so for them. Okay. And I want you to invite each other to connect. You may find that you don't even start your own like mini team, right? Like an accountability partner. You might find somebody in the group that you meet with either by phone or by Zoom once a week, just to check in. Have somebody who's like your lifeline who can kind of like, hey, Joey, how's it going? How's the resume? Did you get it updated yet? And kind of check in with you. So you may find people within this community that can be a part of your team. And we're here for you every Friday. And this is from 10 to 11 a.m. Sometimes I go a little longer because we get into questions and things like that. But you are welcome to join us every Friday. My goal is by the end of this call that you will leave feeling inspired, educated, maybe about some new features or new techniques to support your job search, and connected. I want to make sure that you don't feel like you're alone in this process. And there's this story, I've shared this before, but I want to talk about this again. I was talking to one of my son's teachers. He's in high school. And he encouraged his high school seniors. He said, when you're walking in the halls today, I want you to pay attention to who's not talking to anyone, who's walking by themselves, who never seems to have a friend that they're walking back and forth to classes with, and say hi to them. See how they're doing. They may have a whole day that they go that people don't interact with them. I'm like, as a mom, that just struck me. I was like, oh my gosh, that just pains me to think about. There may be people that are going throughout an entire day and no other human being is interacting with them. Now, when you are working, you're going to have a bunch of people interacting with you, right? You're passing them in the hallway, you're on Zoom calls or GoToMeets or things like that. You're interacting with people all the time. When you're in career transition, you're at home and you might be by yourself. You might be with other family members, right? But you might be by yourself all day. And it can be a bit isolating. So I don't want anyone in this group to ever feel like they are alone. That's part of the reason we introduce each other, is ourselves to each other in chat, so we can get to know each other. But you're going to see this is a really lively chat. So I want you to go inside chat and I want you to interact with people. And there's actually a way now that you can like and react to comments, or you can do comments underneath them. So I'm going to go into Nicole from Novi, and I'm going to say, hi, Nicole, and welcome. And you can put like little sub conversations underneath these now. So feel free to do that. While we're in Zoom, there really can only be one person talking because there's only one audio broadcast that's coming out, but we can use the chat to interact with each other. Now, I will give others on the call the chance to chat today. And what we're going to do is we're going to start to move into success stories and questions, and then we may do some LinkedIn profile reviews as well. So if you have a success story that you would like to share, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go into chat, and I'm going to just demonstrate this right now. I want you to type in the word success, SUCCESS, in all caps. And then I want you to go into the Zoom reaction button as soon as you type in success, and I want you to click on raise hand. See the little raise hand thing that's up for me? That helps me to find you quickly in the Zoom, because there's a lot of people on the call, and that helps me to bring you up to the top of my speaker pane. Okay, so write in success and put your hand up. A success might be, I got an interview. A success might be, I got a job offer. A success might be a recruiter called me, or I'm getting, I'm finally starting to get noticed. Some things are happening. They're starting to light up for you. Whatever you deem to be a success, I want you to raise your hand, put the success word in chat, and I'm going to call on you and ask you to share. And I want you to share. I want you to think about, like, we want to celebrate you. Don't get me wrong, but I want you to share in terms of how can you help other job seekers? What did you learn that can help other people? Okay. So that will be one part that we're doing. Then we are going to do questions. And if you have a question, I want you to go into chat and I want you to type in the word question in all caps. And I'm just going to do an example. The word question is in all caps followed by the question. So I'm going to write question, do you like my coffee mug? And I'm going to hold it up right now. And this is one of my favorite mugs. My former intern got this for me. There's no lemon so sour that you can't make something resembling lemonade. One of my favorite TV series of all time, This Is Us. I'm rewatching it right now. Yes, I'm putting myself through that emotional journey. I'm on season 6 right now, and I'm like binge watching it. And I'm almost like I want to slow it down because I know the ending is coming soon. It's such a good show, isn't it? It's a roller coaster. But that's an example of how you do a question. You type in the word question in all caps, typing out the full question. That way, if we can't get to you, there may be others on the call that can help you to answer that question for you. Okay. Now I see some hands are raised. So I'm going to call on the people that have their hands raised, and I'll ask if you have a success story to share or a question. And as we go throughout here, if anyone from the audience has something they'd like to share, I want you to use the raise hand as well, and I'll pull you into there. All right. So Brian G., you are up, sir. You have a question or a success story? What's going on with you?
I have a success story, so it's a quick success story. So I'm looking to pivot to full-time coaching and training, but also looking for a coaching and soft skills business job. And so I've been listening to you for months and months and weeks. Went straight at where some of my clients are. So I went on LinkedIn, looked for bariatric surgeons. That's the people who do the weight loss surgery. Found 2 big ones, and I just called the office twice a day, every day, after sending a LinkedIn message to connect. Finally got to an executive assistant, and I had a Zoom session with the surgeon, and he referred me 4 of his clients who were having trouble keeping the weight off. So I got 4 coaching clients right away. And then he started talking to me about some office issues. So I have a Zoom training to do some team building with his office. So pretty cool. And so also got an email from Brenda about her sale for one-on-one coaching. And as soon as I get a break at work after this session, I'm going to take one of those slots, and I encourage all of you to do the same. And I will mute myself. But follow Brenda's advice.
Brian, before you leave off here, though, I want to ask you a question based on your success story that you would share. What is your advice for other job seekers?
If you are targeting, stay on your path. It's like, is this the job you want? Mm-hmm. Zero in on LinkedIn. There's hundreds of businesses. Tune out the noise and the negativity. That's what I had to do because my stress level was way up. Pick your path, be persistent, keep going. You're going to get there. And I know that sounds ridiculous when it's been weeks or months. It's been off and on for me. And so just stay on your path. Use the team here for support. We can all support you. If you need to just chat, I'm available for that. It's brutal, but there are businesses hiring. You just absolutely have to be persistent and use any of the people here in this group to tune up your resume and go from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. And on that note, you just reminded me of something, and I want to just kind of check with all of you guys on this too. Sometimes I've come across job seekers that you have done the job that you've been doing in the same industry that you've been doing the job for many, many, many years. And I'm going to just use an example. A few years back, this was pre-pandemic. I was meeting with an individual who was in career transition. She worked in radio sales. Okay, so you know where I'm going with this, right? The radio industry has changed, and that's what she had done for 20 years. And she was looking for another job in radio sales. And I kind of gingerly brought it up to her, and I said, what's the job market looking like in radio sales right now? Because there's a lot of things happening. And at the time, social media was already out there, and there was a lot of shifts happening with satellite radio and, streaming services and things like that. And I kind of felt like she had the blinders on. And I want to make sure you all are thinking about this as well. And she was like, but I've done radio sales and this is what I've done and this is what I can do. And I started to kind of challenge her to think about, what else could you do? Have you thought about listing out what the duties that you've done, the responsibilities, the experiences, and what would be transferable to another industry? For example, you've done sales, so could you work in selling for streaming services, or could you work in selling for a different, like a product organization or something different? And she'd done account management as well, being the representative between the company and the client. I said, could you be an account manager working for a marketing services firm or an agency or something? And she's like, nope, radio sales. And we kept coming back to this radio sales. And I know for years she was looking for a position in radio sales. I don't know if she ever found something, but I want you to think about, are there jobs in your market? And I want you to be honest with yourself. You can certainly do this on LinkedIn. You can look in the jobs board, put in your targeted job title, your targeted geographic area, apply some additional filters, see how many jobs are coming up. If there's not a lot, I do this from a place of tough love, because I want us to just be aware that businesses evolves, industries evolve, jobs change over time. What you used to do there may not be as much of a market for that anymore, but your skills might be transferable to other roles. So if you're struggling with getting interviews and you're really not, finding there's a lot of jobs out there, maybe think about making a list of other jobs that you could do and think about transferable skills that could apply to those. So thank you, Brian, for that story. I'm going to move up to Susan. You had your hand raised, I believe, for a success story, if I'm not mistaken, or did you have a question?
I have a success that I'd love to share with everybody. For the past month, approximately maybe 3 to 4 weeks, I've had my sights set on one position. It is a tailor-made for me position, really excited. And using a lot of the tips that I've learned here, I have an interview set for Monday. And I'm just ecstatic about it, because I felt like if I can just get in front of them and just talk to them. And some of the tips that I've learned, I made some notes, was, so I found out about the job, and it's at Northrop Grumman, which is a major defense company, one of the top 5 in the country. And I was looking through my LinkedIn contacts, and someone I used to work with works there. So I reached out to him and asked him if he could find the name of the recruiter for the position. He gave me the name of the recruiter and the name of the hiring manager. I reached out to the recruiter on LinkedIn, sent her a note, would love to learn more, talk about the role, what have you. I also submitted my application on their internal website and my contact also submitted a referral. About a week later, I get an email saying, received your application, here's some screening questions. And it was basically me validating that I meet all the requirements for the position. A friend who has been in the industry thought it was weird that they sent me an email and didn't just call me to do screening questions. But I looked at it as a way that they might have been separating people who were serious about the job versus people who just apply to everything. So I was more than happy to submit that. And then that same day or the next day, I got a response to my LinkedIn message from the recruiter. She obviously doesn't go on very often, but said, got your message, got your response. I'll check my email and see when we can talk. The next day, or that day, she sent an email. Thanks for your thorough responses. This is great. We spoke. I asked questions. Like I've gotten more confident in asking the recruiters questions like, is it a new position? Where is it located exactly? And just some specific things there. And she told me in that call, she had already put me forward to the hiring manager. And then I saw someone else from Northrop Grumman looked at my LinkedIn, and I had to keep pushing a little bit, like, what's the status? What's the status? And finally, she called and I asked, how many people are being interviewed for the position? What's the timeline? And I'm just super excited. And using LinkedIn, I've looked at the hiring manager. He does animal fostering. He's interested in humanitarian relief. We've got these things in common, and I'm really excited to kind of weave those in. And I just wanted to share and say thank you, because I think a lot of the tips that I'm learning gave me confidence to go out a little more than I would have otherwise. And because the senior person looked at my LinkedIn profile from my conversations with Brenda and everyone else, I'm more confident in presenting that to the world. And yeah,
That's awesome.
that's it.
So
So
are
thank
you currently in interviewing phase then at this point, where you're feeling like it's promising, it's moving forward, or are you at the offer phase yet, or where?
Interview. So
Interview. Okay.
and they're no longer taking applications. So next
good
week
sign.
they're interviewing 6 people.
Yeah.
When she called me, she gave me 6 times and dates. So I think I was the first person she called to set up the interview.
Yep.
I went with the first time and I asked her, in your experience, does it matter if I go earlier or later compared to everybody else? And she said in hers it didn't. She's seen offers go both ways. And the team is really good about gathering notes together after they meet with each candidate. So it's the interview phase. It sounds like there's going to be one interview. Something I learned on a call last night, which I'm curious what folks think about. The position is in person. The interview is a virtual panel.
Yeah.
If I am offered the position, is it fair to say I'd like to come in person and meet people face to face that I'll be working with? Or should I just be happy that I got this offer? And
Ooh, good question. I'm going to ask my all-stars to weigh in on this. I would say, when you're interviewing with a company, it's as much about you interviewing them as it is them interviewing you. So if you personally would feel more comfortable meeting people in person before accepting an offer, I would say absolutely. I think there's something to be said, especially if you're going to be working in person with them, with getting the chance to briefly meet with them in person. That's my take on it. I saw Sue raise her hand and she was nodding enthusiastically as well. So Sue, what would you add to that question?
What I'd add is remember that that's also where you're showing the team that you're showing up, because now with virtual interviewing, they're not necessarily as involved as the old days when I last interviewed, when I met 2 or 3 different teams over the space of a day. So I think it sends a lot of visual signals as well that you're interested and ready to go. And yay, Susan.
But it's also possible, Susan, that these people they're scattered across the country, maybe even around the world. If it's Grumman, they could be all over the world. And so they may not be in a central location that's convenient for them to all together and meet you, which is a noble thing to do. But physically and logistically, it may not be possible. Get in there, get the job, and then go travel all over the world and meet them face to face, buy them coffee. But I would say get in there.
Thanks, Joey.
Sure.
All right, Susan, fingers crossed. This sounds super promising. And what I want to just kind of remind people of when Susan was talking is she was talking about the fact that she applied, she did what you're supposed to do, but she also networked and tried to find people on LinkedIn to connect with. So I want to remind everyone, I think that's an important element of your job search success. A lot of times I will talk about not just relying upon the black hole of job search and, that soul sucking thing that happens, the energy pull and the energy drain that happens when you're just applying to job boards. We want to enhance that. You need to, I mean, like apply through the job board process. A lot of companies, it's a requirement. You have to apply through it, but don't just rely upon that and keeping your fingers crossed on making all the way through. Try to find people that work at the company to make connections with on LinkedIn that can help to create a warm introduction for you. I read a story this week, and I can't remember where it was from, but it was a person who had applied to a company through a job posting on Indeed. And then in the meantime, she had made a connection with somebody who worked at the company who got her in contact with the hiring manager. And the hiring manager said, make sure you apply. And the woman said, I did through Indeed. And the woman, the hiring manager never got the person's resume. So there was a disconnect. Somehow the technology broke down between applying from Indeed to the company receiving it. So if it's a job you're super interested in, I mean, I hope technology works 100% of the time, but that's like one time it didn't. What about all the other times it didn't work and we wouldn't know about it, right? So I would encourage you to try to make a connection at the company, confirm that your application was received, try to get some rapport going, make yourself a known person, I think was the key takeaway there from Susan. All right, Sue, did you have something else to add to that, or was your hand raised? Okay, so we're going to go back to, I think the next person I saw in line raising their hand was Sherry Underwood. Hey, Sherry, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How's everybody doing?
Good. Do you have a success story, a question? What do you got for us?
I have a success story. So it's pretty similar to Susan's, but I targeted this company, Vacher Chemical. It was on my top 10 when I was selling what I was selling. And I got to know the people there a little bit better. I took a tour of the building. It's phenomenal. It was created around surveys of the existing employees. So anyway, I'm in sales. I'm an agnostic salesperson. I can, I've done several different industries recently. Anyway, I was telling somebody about Vacher and they were like, you should really work there. And I said, I'd love to work there. And within 2 days, a posting came up for a business development representative, which is my forte. So I quickly got on LinkedIn. I sent an email to Brenda, who do you know? I have a career coach. I sent an email to her, Vicky, who do you know? And I got connected. It turns out Vicky used to work with Ed, the gentleman that I have a meeting with this afternoon, or well, right after this meeting at 11:45. So I've already applied. I sent my resume in a couple of weeks ago. I sent it as an attachment to my LinkedIn conversation with a couple of them as well. So you have to network, and it's, I think, a quicker way to get where you want to go. So I'm very excited about this meeting.
That's awesome. Well, I'm fingers crossed for you. I feel like when you guys are telling these stories, I'm like, oh, it just feels like such a great opportunity. And you're doing what you need to do. You're applying, but you're also networking. You're making yourself known. In addition to, what Sherry had shared and what Susan had already talked about is when you apply for a position at a company, in addition to trying to network with and connect with people on LinkedIn, I always encourage candidates to go and find the company page on LinkedIn, make sure that you're following it. And then also find a recent post that you can add a thoughtful comment to. The goal here is you're trying to make yourself familiar, like they're going to go, Sherry Underwood, where do we know that name from? Oh, that's right. She applied for that business development position, right? We're trying to make ourselves familiar with the company. So Sherry, it's nice to see you on the call. I hope we don't see you much longer because I feel like things are promising for you, but thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You're welcome. One last thing, you always want to follow the company. If they're a large enough company, you always want to follow them on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that and good luck to you. All right. I see we have 2 more hands raised. And reminder, if you have a question or a success story, drop it into chat, put the word success in chat in all caps. And then if you have a question, put question in all caps, followed by your question. That way, if we don't get to you, others can help. And I'm already seeing some great conversation chains that are coming out of that. And then I want you to go to the Zoom menu. If you hover over your Zoom menu in the bottom, you should see a reactions bar. And there's one that's called raise hand, and that will keep the hand up the whole time until I call on you. And that helps me to identify who has a question or a success story. So next up will be Katie Walsh, followed by Jess. So Katie, what question or success do you have to share with us?
Oh, I just have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
So, I was on LinkedIn and I saw someone that I worked with a long time ago, and connecting with her, but I noticed right away, right under her name and her job title, there was a typo in her company name. Ooh. And so I'm like, should I point that out, or am I being?
Is this someone you know?
Yeah, I knew her. I worked with her, but I can't.
So let me tell you this, Katie. A good friend will always tell you if you have spinach on your teeth.
Yeah, right.
Okay. I honestly, and I wouldn't do it publicly, like commenting on one of her posts saying, "Hey, you've got a typo."
No, I would never do that.
But I would message her and just say, if you want to soften it up a little, you could even say, "Hey, Katie, I was just viewing your profile and saw a typo. Do you mind if I point it out to you?" You can do that first, or you can just say, "Hey, Katie, it looks like you might have a typo in your company name. It looks like you said ABC, but it should be BAC. I hope you don't mind me pointing it out to you."
Okay, but we're not connected yet. I wanted to connect with her.
But this is somebody you know?
Yes.
Okay, so connect with her first. Invite her to connect, and then immediately after she accepts, that's the second note you send her. Hey, wanted to make sure that you were aware company name typo.
That's what I wanted to know. I didn't want to put it in the connection note. Hey.
Yeah. Does she look like she's active on LinkedIn?
I can't tell.
And do you have her email address by chance?
No, I don't.
I think your best route would still be to invite her to connect first and then
Yeah,
message her in the
okay.
follow-up with
That's
the
what I wanted
typo.
to do, because I didn't want to,
Yeah.
and she might see me as the same, as someone who I kind of not supervised her, but kind of, so I didn't want to come across as,
Yeah. And
you know.
that's why I would like do the stepped approach, like invite her to connect. And
Okay.
there's someone I know that she will, and I'm not going to name names. Others probably know who I'm talking about, but she will message me on LinkedIn. Hey, you have a typo. You have to change this word. And I kind of tried saying, hey, are you open to some feedback? And she said yes. And I said, you should really be paid for this. You're doing proofreading all the time. I'm not paying you for the work. And she's like, I don't want you to have typos in there. But sometimes her approach, you need to change. It's a little bit so direct that it's like, and there's been times where I'm like, no, actually, that is the correct spelling of the word. I meant this instead of that. So it like her pushing it on me as opposed to saying, are you open to some feedback on your post? Or it looks like you might have been doing voice to text again. Did you mean to say LinkedIn and not Lingen or something like that? Just softening it up. But I think in your case, since there's a supervisory relationship, I would say connect first. And then just say, it looks like there might be a typo in your company name field. Like, there is, she probably knows it, but it's a way of softening that up. Does that help you?
Yes, exactly. Thank you. I just wanted the right, exactly what you said. Thanks so much. You guys are
Absolutely.
great. And there's such great vibes today with all the successes.
We aim for good vibes here. That's our goal. So, goal met. So thank you for sharing that. All right. I think next up we have Jess Samuels. Hey, Jess, how are you doing today? Did you have a question or a success story for us?
I have a success story with lots of good lessons with it.
Awesome.
I'm having allergies, so my voice is a little bit low. So my success is that as of last night, I just reached my 50 recommendations on LinkedIn. Which I know is not much for like the entrepreneurial world, but like as a regular person, it feels pretty big. So
all right, I'm going to stop you right there because we don't do the, I know it's not much game here. We do the celebrate. We focus on the positive. Don't do the comparisonitis thing, Jess. That is absolutely awesome that you have recommendations. You have 50 of them. So that's awesome. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I had learned that recruiters or maybe people who might be potential employers can't see my recommendations because you can't see it if there are more than 2 positions away or links away, I believe. I don't know where I learned that, but I wanted to make sure that all of my potential employers could see my recommendations. So one of the things that I did was that I created a website specifically to highlight all of my recommendations, and I put them in order by what position I had, because the way that they're on your LinkedIn, they're just in order of when
most
people
recent.
submitted them. Yeah. So it's not that helpful.
And I want to first address, the issue of, are they visible and viewable? Yes, they are, but there's a lot of areas of our profile. For example, skills. Most people are only going to see the top 3. They're not going to click on show all 48. Do you use all 48? Yes. Because if you use spaces for all 50 skills, it helps with SEO, with search engine optimization on LinkedIn. You'll come up in more searches, but you want to make sure 1, 2, and 3 are related to the role that you're looking for. Now, recommendations are a little bit different. Like skills, I can actually move around 1, 2, and 3. I can reorder them. Recommendations are a little bit tricky because you cannot reorder them. They appear, it's like in accounting, what was it like? Last in, first out kind of like philosophy. So the most recent recommendation will appear at the top that you have received. And you can see all, show all 49 received on here. You have to click through and see them. And once you click on show all 40, and then you can scroll down and see the recommendations. So they are visible, but you do have to click on the menu. Now, most people are not going to click on the menu, but the right people might do that, Jess. And I want to say the right people. Who might those right people be? Hiring managers, people that you're interviewing with, recruiters. They're going to look to see if people have recommended you. I think, and some of them, maybe not all of them, but some of them will. And they're going to look at what are the common themes that people are saying about you. They may read through or skim through some of those. So even if we can't see them because of the nested menu, they are visible to everyone, but they are rank ordered. And unfortunately, at this time, you cannot move them around. So I just want to make sure I'm addressing that, which I think was a statement, or maybe it was a question, Jess. Which was it?
About whether you can move them around.
Yeah.
I've read you cannot move them around. So
Yeah.
that's why I created the website that put them in order based on the role.
That's awesome. So like a portfolio.
Yeah.
One other thing while we're in this section, I heard you say you have 50 received. I want to look at how many you've given. And I'm going to give you a homework assignment here, Jess. And this is not just for you, but for everyone on the call. When you look at your recommendations on LinkedIn, I would strive to have more given than received. Okay. And I'm going to use an example. This is years back. I was looking at someone's profile. It was a salesperson. He had 20 recommendations received and 0 given. What do you think about him when you see something like that? He's a taker, right? He wants people to give him, but he's never given 1 recommendation. And I think it gives like a sentiment about how you're using LinkedIn and how you might be doing business, with other people as well. By focusing more on giving recommendations, you're doing a couple things. You're kind of showing that you're an equal opportunity person, right? You receive them, you give them. I like the fact that you're building up social media karma. I don't know about you, Jess, but every time I get a recommendation, I'm always like, oh my gosh, it was so nice of them to say that. Especially if I didn't even ask for it. Like I get these, unsolicited, I'm like, oh, that is from a paid client of all things. And then they say like why you should work with Brenda, why you should hire her, for whatever. So I want everyone on the call to think about 2 people that they could give a recommendation to. I do not want to be one of them, so do not make it me. Think of 2 people that you could give a recommendation to. These could be former coworkers that were also let go from your organization at the same time as you, people that you would stand behind and you would recommend. These could be former managers or bosses. They could be vendors that you've worked with. These could be people that are a part of professional organizations that you belong to, maybe that you serve on boards with. So think about your fellow board members. If you are in a more senior position, think about people that you have mentored in your career. If you're in a more junior position, think about people that have mentored you. So I want you to think about 2 people that you could give a recommendation to. So thank you, Jess, for inspiring that little mini rant TED Talk for me on there.
Go
ahead.
I have a couple more lessons learned that might help the group. So part of the way that I did this, besides following up with people a lot, was that I actually made like a cheat sheet that had things that I was most proud of and positions that I was looking for and skills that I wanted highlighted. So I created this document and then I forwarded them the document with the request to give me a recommendation.
That's awesome. So it's a little bit of a jump start in like, if you're struggling with what to come up with, here are some things that you could reflect upon. Is that right?
Yes. And I also took a spreadsheet of everybody who commented on my laid off post. And then I put them all on a spreadsheet and followed up with every single person. And then if they wrote something really nice, I told them what they wrote about me and that.
That's awesome.
Kick-started going forward. So those are some ideas about how you can get your recommendations up. And then I also made a slider based on Brenda's directions.
Yes. I got to share that one because that was awesome, by the way.
I just shared it in the chat. Oh,
did you? Okay. And was that last week or was that 2 weeks ago?
Well, 2 weeks ago, I made one that didn't have my face on it. And then I decided to try to improve it. So I made a second slider.
Oh, look at that. Wow, Jess, look at you. Now, what are you looking for? Tell us again, targeted job title, targeted geographic area.
Yeah, I'm looking for remote roles in ed tech, in customer success, operations management, and internal communications.
Okay, I'm putting it in my memory bank and trying to cycle it through. If I think of anything, I'll refer. You've got some really great marketing for yourself on here. I think you'd make someone a really great hire. I love the fact that you've added your professional headshot photo in there. Was this the previous one with just the testimonials or just the recommendations on it?
Yeah. So the first one just had the recommendations, and then the second one has quotes in addition to my picture. So I wanted to have them as pinned post in my profile. So I thought that a series of pinned posts with the different skills that I wanted to highlight would be helpful.
When you say pinned post, are you referring to the featured section?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny that you call it pinned post, because a lot of times when I tell people about this, Jess, I'll say, this is your featured section. It's kind of like Pinterest meets LinkedIn, because you basically like can feature or pin a post in there. And by the way, for those of you who are on the call and don't have the featured section enabled, I'm just going to demonstrate on screen right now how you get that section enabled. There's 2 ways. One is when you post on LinkedIn, you can click on the 3 dots for that post and click on add to featured. The other way to enable the featured section is at the top of your profile next to the blue open to button. You'll click on add profile section, and then you'll go under recommended and you'll click on add featured. and it will pop you over here, where the very first time you're going to see this, it'll just have the white box at the top, and then you'll have to click on to either add a post, a newsletter, which is a blog on LinkedIn, or an article, a blog on LinkedIn, a link to an external website, or you can do media, uploading those items in there as well. Awesome, Jess. Did we get through everything that you wanted to share?
I think that's all my lessons learned.
You are awesome. I'm so glad you're a part of this group. Mindy, I saw that your hand was raised. Did you have something that you wanted to add to Jess before we move on?
Yes, I wanted to say, Jess, you are such a go-getter, such an inspiration to see how you are not sitting still. You are jamming it. One thing I will add to what you've done with your recommendations, you can take one or two of the ones that you like the most and just stick them in your about section and just say, here's some of my recommendations. If you wanted to add that, that's just another place where you can put them. So you have a lot of space in the about section, but you're doing amazing, and congrats.
Good advice.
Awesome.
Thank you. I know I have a lot more work to do on LinkedIn, so I keep listening for all these tips. Thanks.
Yeah, that's easy to do.
All right, awesome. Okay, I'm going to keep us moving along. I see Janine has her hand raised. Janine, did you have a question or a success story for us? Whoop, did Janine go away?
No, I'm still here.
Oh, there you are. Okay, hi. How are you?
Hi, I just had to unmute. Thank you. I had a question. In terms of posts, I see that people often incorporate photographs, sometimes from news articles or great graphics that I'm guessing they didn't create. Does LinkedIn have guidelines about where you can pull photographs? Do you credit the photographs if they're from a news article? I want to use a photo for a particular post I have in mind, and I just haven't done that. I've used my own photographs, but not other people's. So
okay, so I'm going to start with saying I am not a lawyer, and this is not legal advice. I'm going to disclaim that. A lot of times, you'll talk to a lawyer or you'll talk to people, and they're like, "Well, it's for entertainment purposes only," and you want to share that. So, good rule of thumb, and I come from a corporate marketing background, Janine, is if you are using someone else's work to promote your business, so that would constitute commercial use, then you do have to pay them for it. So for example, let's say Brenda Meller is speaking at a conference and I want my walk-up song to be Beyonce's Irreplaceable, just for example, right? And I'm going to have that playing, and I'm going to be recording my event, and I'm going to be selling it. And, there's going to be a playback license and all these things. Somebody from, and I don't know what her label is, but somebody from her label is probably going to hear about that. And they're going to say, you can't use her music without paying for it. You have to license it to use the rights if you're using it for commercial use. Now, in this day and age of internet, and we're pinning things on Pinterest, and we're posting things on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and things like that, the rules are a little bit looser. And you may even notice, Janine, that sometimes on Instagram, for example, or Pinterest, there's like a watermark or like an @ name, like of the person who was the original artist that was on there. So that's one way that people are making sure that as images are shared along, that they're given credit as being the original author. Now, you can certainly go onto Google Images, and I'm just going to do a google.com. I think it's /images, if I'm not mistaken. And you can search for, and I'm just going to type in inspirational quotes about coffee. Huh? Who would have figured? So inspirational quotes about coffee. And I
was expecting pie.
Yeah, pie. I mean, sure. Let's just for giggles, let's change that to inspirational quotes about pie, and sometimes you will see the original author or the source, A to Z quotes is noted on this one. Other times there's no source that's affiliated with it. Now, if it is a quote, like, let me pull this one a little larger up on screen. So Edgar Guest said this: "There's no diet I'll follow that would rule out cherry pie." So if there's attribution given to that person, I wouldn't post it on LinkedIn without giving him the attribution as the original source. It's a good rule of thumb, Janine, if you do know who said it originally, or if it was their photo originally, you say reshared from that person, or you tag them in the post to give them credit. Now, having said that, if you want to create your own original artwork, you can use a website called canva.com to create graphics, and you can sign up for a free account on canva.com. And the way I like to talk about Canva, it's kind of like graphic design for dummies. It's the best way I explain it. It's not like Photoshop where you have to learn any, difficult software. You don't have to download everything. It's web-based. Looks like my internet's going a little slow right now, but you can create a free account and you can go in here and let's say I click on social media. I can create graphics for LinkedIn. And maybe there's a LinkedIn post that I want to do. And you can go through here and Canva will give you some templates, some options to choose from. You can swap out photos. You can put your own photo in there. You can swap out quotes or change the text and things like that. So you certainly could create your own. But general rule of thumb is we don't want to like plagiarize. Give credit when you can. And if you know who said it, give the credit. Don't ever crop out the person's name from the post. That's poor form. But sometimes there is no name on it. There is no source on it. And if you're just using it for educational, informational purposes, not commercial, you should be okay. Does that help to answer your question, Janine?
Yeah, it wouldn't be for commercial purposes. It's more to illustrate a topic that was discussed in a monthly group that I do. So
yeah,
I'm interested in a picture, for example, of a burnt tree. So I could find one in a news article or something like that. I just didn't know.
Yeah, there's a couple of places too that you can find free stock images that are for commercial use and you don't ever have to pay for them. There's 3 websites that I use. I'm going to drop them into chat. Pexels.com is one of them, and it's free stock photography. You can use it commercial or non-commercial. You don't ever have to pay for it. Pexels.com is one. And I want to encourage others, if you know of other sites that you use, drop them into chat right now. These are the 3 that I use most often. Unsplash.com is a second one. I'm going to drop that into chat. And then the third one is pixabay.com. In Canva, there's also free images that you can use. You can try that one as well. And there's illustrations as well as photos. But those are 3 websites. I would say if you're looking for an image, I do the Google image search thing too, Janine, but I try to find like either through Canva or one of these stock photo sites first. And one image I like to think of, I see a lot of people using the same one. It's like 2 goldfish bowls and a goldfish jumping from one to the other. I see that everywhere. So I want to try to find something that's not used in other places because I want it to feel like it's part of my brand, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there was a post I read yesterday or 2 days ago, where someone illustrated asking for help before you're on empty. And so it was a series of cans, with the level going down and an arrow pointing, here's where you should ask for help, before the tank is empty. And, the article was, informative and stuff I already knew, but that graphic is what really grabbed me. And so that's the kind of thing I was interested to learn. I don't know where they found it. They didn't credit anybody with it. I doubt they created it, but I just was curious about that. So thank you.
You're welcome. Sue, I think your hand was raised. Did you have something to add to that?
I do. I actually had mentioned the same sites, Brenda, but be aware there's no distinction between commercial and I'm just using it to post on LinkedIn or show my friends. It's what's called fair use, and fair use means like Unsplash, Pexels, and Pixabay all ask you to give attribution, which I try to do. Unless you buy their like $40 a year package or whatever. I think the important thing is if you find something that comes from a newspaper, a web article, whatever it is, if you can source that source, and I've done this in some of the webinars, it's okay to show it and show that immediately. What people don't want is taking their work without any reference in your stuff. And I know you're aware of this. The other thing that I use Pexels, Unsplash, and Pixabay for is I have esoteric topics of another picture on collaboration or networking. And when I type those words in, it gives you a lot of evocative images that get me thinking beyond my concrete people at a table networking. So I'm just saying use those for inspiration as well. But I appreciate that you asked this question, because I think people assume, especially now with all the GIFs, they assume that everything is fair play to use free of charge. And I look at the old TV shows that are in syndication and think someone's making a lot of money on those GIFs, but I'm not getting involved in that. But thank you for asking about static images. That's great. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you for the question, Janine. And, sometimes these questions that are brought up, it's like, if you have the question, there's probably somebody else wondering the same thing. And sometimes I have people on these calls, they're like, well, I didn't want to ask a question. I've asked questions before. And I'm like, this is your call. I call these VIP job seeker office hours. First of all, VIP, because you are a very important person. And I want to address like what that means. It doesn't mean you are a VP or in the C-suite. It means that you are a very important person wherever you are in your career, whether you are just getting started in a college graduate or maybe midpoint in your career, or you're at the experience rich point in your career, right? I don't like to say mature workers, things like that. I like to say experience rich, and you might be age 50 and above looking for a job. So you are a very important person. Your value is not tied only to the fact that you are employed. Your value, I mean, really your passion for what you do, you carry that with you wherever you go. The knowledge, all the things that you've gained over the years, the thought leadership, things like that, you take that with you wherever you go. So regardless if you're working or not, you are a VIP in my eyes. That's part of the reason I call these VIP job seeker office hours. And the job seeker part, I want you to remember that if you are in career transition, meaning you are unemployed, underemployed, maybe working, but looking for a new job, you're not happy in things, or otherwise, starting to look for a new career, you are welcome to come into these phone calls every week. Zoom calls, I should say. They feel like a phone call sometimes. I want you to know that if you see others on LinkedIn that are struggling with finding a job and you see them posting about, hey, send opportunities my way, please tag me in your post in the comment and just say Brenda Meller may have some resources that can help you. That's your way of winking to me, my friend. And I will know because you'll tag me, you'll do @Brenda Meller, and I will get a notification that you have tagged me in a post, and I will wink back to you in the form of a reply. And I'll say, thanks for tagging me in, Lisa. And, hey, Sherry, I'd like to invite you to join me on our upcoming VIP job seeker office hours. And I'll put the link where they can come and register. So we do these every week. They're free. And once you register once, it's the same Zoom link that you'll use for the remainder of 2023. If you miss a call, you can go on YouTube and find the playback. We've also got the playlist, so you can watch all the other ones if you want to kind of go back in history there. We do try to cover, questions, success stories, sometimes LinkedIn tips, things like that are woven inside there. So you may actually find it beneficial. Just have them playing in the background as you're searching for jobs and applying. Just have them playing because you'll probably learn some new tips along with that. All right, what else? VIP job seeker office hours. It's about an hour every week, and we actually are getting close to the end of our time here today. Was there anyone who had a question? If you haven't raised your hand, I need you to use the raise hand function so that I can call on you right now, because there's such a lively chat, which is a wonderful thing. But I want to make sure that there aren't any final questions that we did not get to today. I just prompted Rob to find his raise hand. So Rob, you'll be our final question for today, sir. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Brenda. Appreciate it. So do all of the things to set follow-ups with recruiters, whether they're internal or they're headhunter recruiters, where they say, great, the recruiter says, I will be back in touch with you, say by the end of the week or early the next week. You let a few days go by, and beyond the time that they said they'd get back with you, you send a follow-up email, text, LinkedIn message, whatever it is, and yet they still ghost you. And you spoke with them pretty intensively about a position and how great the fit is, and they want to introduce you to the hiring manager or to the client company.
Sure.
And yet they go silent on you. Any tips on how to actually get them? Even you're following up, you're the one being proactive, and yet they're still ghosting you.
So I'm going to crack my knuckles for this one first. Here we go. All
right.
And I'm going to ask my VIP All-Stars and others on the call, if you have advice for Rob, what to do if you've been ghosted by a recruiter. I want you to go into chat right now, and I want you to add some comments. And Rob, I want you to think about unless they have told you we have filled the position, we're no longer interested in you, I want you to assume that they are still very interested in you and a candidate. And I want you to assume they're just so busy they have not had a chance to get back to you. So it sounds like at the end of the interview, you were given a time frame, and the time frame has come and gone. They have not responded back to you. So now you need to take the initiative and reach back through to them. You can do this by email, reach out to them. Hey, Sherry, wanted to remind you, I interviewed for the VP of marketing position a week ago. You indicated that I'd hear back from you on Friday. It's Monday now, and my guess is you've gotten busy. And I just want to let you know, I'm very interested in moving on into the position. Here's my contact info. And then I want you to set the date when you're going to reply again. So here's my contact info. If I don't hear back from you by next Tuesday or by next Monday, I'll reach out to you again. So that would be step number one, emailing them, giving them the time frame. If it was me, Rob, and I was genuinely interested in the position, I would probably do that for maybe 4 weeks in a row. And then I would move to every other week. So I would do it for an additional month for every other week. And then the last message, the sixth message to them would be, it sounds like you've either decided to go into another direction with a position, or maybe you've put this on hold. You know where to, you kind of like let them know, feel free to reach back out to me if the position is starting to, if you're starting to look at the position again. I will be pursuing other opportunities, and in the meantime, Rob, if you are pursuing other opportunities, but this is the job that you really want, mention that in the email. I have another offer on the table, or I have another interview I'm looking at, but I really would prefer to work for your company. That yours is at the top of my list. So assume they're busy, give them the chance by, following up. I mean, this technique, I got a job from this. I kept following up, persistent, but polite. I never went into the annoyed zone. Persistent, polite. Sounds like you're busy. Here's my contact info. If I don't hear back, I'll check in with you in another week. And I had one person say, you were the only person who did that. Obviously you want the job. Let's bring you back in. And I got the job for that. In addition, I would try to reach out to that person on LinkedIn, as well as try to make friends with other people, rather connections with other people that work at the company on LinkedIn, and try to warm up those as connections. I see Joey has raised his hand. Joey, did you want to add something to that?
Well, you stole my thunder, Brenda. But I wrote about that in my book. When I got my job at the company I worked at for many years, I was interviewing and was told there was a hiring freeze when I sent them my thank you. I called the guy every month because I really wanted to work there. To Brian's point earlier in the call, if you're focused on what you want without being a nudge and being impolite, be politely persistent. And the worst that can happen is to say, no, we're not interested, or we're done, or the position is filled. But if you want it, you got nothing to lose. And here's the other thing, between Rob's comments, even Jess talking about how many recommendations, it's like 50 is like, I know it's not a big deal. We always beat ourselves up and we always think the worst. Well, how about we think about the positive and we think about what good can come from this situation? And so if you back off because they're not responding to you, you're done. You're not going to get the job. You're not even going to get an offer. You're not even going to get an interview. So just keep plugging away, be polite, be persistent, and be professional. Who knows where that will lead?
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Cyril, did you want to add something to that, or did you have a different question? Cyril?
Yeah, I'm right here. I was wondering, since we were talking about different things, I was curious about the endorsements. When my computer is super slow, I apologize. When we were talking about endorsing people, it's one thing, but then when we're talking about when we're talking about references and stuff, but endorsing people, I've heard a lot of people saying, unless I know that person and that skill specific. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're freezing up just a little bit, but is your question about when to give people endorsements, or the value of endorsements, or? Right,
compared to what we were talking about before.
The recommendations?
Exactly. And people are saying, if I don't know that person and I don't know that skill, I'm not going to endorse them. What's your view on that?
So there's no right or wrong answer on this. I'm going to start with that first of all. I mean, typically if it's a job seeker and we're on these calls, sometimes I'll pull up their profiles and I will give them endorsements for their top 3 skills, even though I haven't worked with them firsthand, because I know the fact that if you have 99 plus endorsements for a skill, it's going to help you to come up in more search. So by me endorsing you, it's helping you with your job search. So I like to help people and pay it forward. Other people may say, I'm not going to give Joey an endorsement for coaching because he's never coached me. Like they might be a little bit more, and it's personal preference on there. Endorsements don't take a lot of effort. I can click on endorse, click on endorse, click on endorse, and it's super easy to do. Now, Joey's going to get a notification saying Brenda Meller endorsed you for solution selling and 2 other things. And he may message me back and say, thank you. What I wouldn't do, Cyril, is endorse someone and then have them send you the thank you note and then say, could you endorse me? Because now it feels like you just gave me endorsements to get some of your own. And that feels a little bit inauthentic, so to speak. Endorsements help you on LinkedIn in 2 ways. I would say first is as people are visiting your profile, most people are only going to see the top 3. So you want to make sure that they are rank ordered in what are the top 3 skills for you. That helps you at kind of quick glance. Joey tells me he's an author, a speaker, all these other things. And I go to his endorsements. I see he's coaching, teaching, solution selling. So I'm getting a flavor for what he does. I may or may not look at the number of endorsements. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes people do. They're like, wow, he's got 40 endorsements, but this one, he's only got 7. Like they may or may not notice that. The top 3 will get more endorsements over time. So I don't really worry about those numbers. It's not a lot of effort. So there's some weight that you have to kind of apply to that, as opposed to recommendations. Like Kathy actually had to sit down and think about what she wanted to say about Joey and type this in. I mean, it probably took her a couple minutes to do so, right? And I look at the substance of what she said. Joey has great energy, always engaging, holds the audience attention. Like I can tell that when he spoke, it actually made an impression on her. So I feel like to me, these have more credibility. It's social proof because I can see that Kathy's a real life person. I can click to come back to her profile. And it's not just Kathy clicking to endorse him. It's a little bit more substantial in there. Does that help you out, Cyril?
So I tend to do it like you, where I endorse people to help them out. But I was told that, some people
that's personal preference. Some people will say, do not endorse people unless you know firsthand, because, that's your credibility. That's personal preference. If you want to, or if you don't want to. And I can see both sides of it. Well, you said, Joey's a good coach and I hired him and he's not, like, why would you endorse him? Joey's a great coach, by the way. I'm not just using hypothetical.
It just helps them.
But it's just your own mentality. I'm of the abundance mentality, the social media karma, the paying it forward. Have I gotten burned? Sure. I've referred people to other connections before. They weren't happy. They came back to me and they said, this person was not good to work with. I'm like, I'm sorry. I haven't worked with them firsthand. I know this person did X, Y, Z. I always will try to give like 3 to 4 different names and let them choose. That's up to you, what you do. But I think it's personal preference, Cyril. If you're hesitant about giving somebody an endorsement because you haven't worked with them, then don't. I give my permission. Don't, do whatever you want on there.
Thank you very much.
Right. Okay. I think we're going to start to wrap up. I'm just going to check our chat real quick here and make sure there's nothing else that's like people like messaging me, hey, don't forget about this. Okay. As we wrap up today, I want to let you guys in on a little secret. I'm going to lean forward on this. I've launched my podcast. That is, I had to whisper and then I'm like, no, I should probably say it. I've launched my podcast. It's a soft launch. Now, what this means is typically a soft launch means, you've launched it, like you created a website, but nobody knows about it. Until you start telling people about it, it doesn't become real. This is the first podcast that I've launched, and it's focused on helping people who are coaches, consultants, speakers, and authors. Some of you may know people who'll be interested in that. And when I went through my Buzzsprout platform, there's a way that you like launch it on Apple and Google podcasts and like all of these other podcasts, and they don't roll out at the same time. I thought it was like instantaneous, like flip a switch and it's live, and I'm discovering, no, it's not. So I've got an iPhone. It's not, at least as of this morning, it wasn't on my Apple Podcasts yet. But if any of you are podcast listeners, if you could go on your preferred podcast channel and you can either search for my name, Brenda Meller, or you can search for this title. It's called, let me just type it in and then I'll read it. There you go. It's called Enthusiastically Self-Employed. I love it. It just makes me smile every time I read it. So search for, if you are a podcast listener, Enthusiastically Self-Employed. I've got 2 episodes right now that are up there. My plan is to add an episode every week. A lot of this will be converting my LinkedIn Live, but I'll also be doing some solo episodes in there as well. So fingers crossed it actually gets launched. Once I see it across the major platforms, probably next week, I will be doing an announcement, social media post, email, that kind of stuff. But I'm waiting for it to pick up, make sure that the mic wasn't dropped in between like launching it and whatnot. So that's my news. I want to thank all of you for being on the call with us here today. We had such a great conversation. I want to thank our all-stars, Joey, Mindy, and Sue for helping us out. And also, I want to thank all of you for making this a part of your Friday. At the beginning of the call, I said, my goal is that you are leaving feeling inspired, informed, and connected. How do we do? This is like my performance review part of it. Go into chat and tell me if you are feeling those things: inspired, informed, and connected. Are you feeling those things? I hope that you are. I really hope that you are. I want to thank you for making this a part of your Friday. It was great to see all of you. Thank you to Julia, Joey, Al, Andy, Angela, Brett, Cindy, Cyril, Lewis, Dave, Dean, Janine, Jeff, Jess, Catherine, Katie, Kevin, Laura, Lisa, Mary Beth, Mary, Meddy, Nancy, nice to see you. Nicole, Randy, nice to see you. Rob, Scott, Sherry, Simeon, Stuart, Susan, Vic the Pie Man, and Wendy. Thank you guys so much for making this a part of your Friday. My name is Brenda. I help business professionals get a bigger slice of the LinkedIn pie. I look forward to connecting with you on LinkedIn. If you do visit my profile, I want you to keep in mind that I have the creator mode set up. So you're going to see the follow button. If you do want to connect with me, just go to the more button, click on that more button in the dropdown, and you'll see an option that will either say personalized invite or connect. Make sure that you add a note when you connect and mention that you saw me on the Friday VIP phone call, or maybe you're watching the YouTube playback, and I will be happy to connect with you, my friend. All right, with all of